Gary Hughes, Harvey Jones, Delia Derbyshire Appreciation Society, DDAS.
Thank you. This is Mark Stevens, an old and dear friend, and also musical director and drummer with various outfits.
Okay, so we are here to talk about primarily your new album, which is, I believe, just released.
Yes.
And a little bit of background before we carry on with that. So, interestingly enough, 40 years ago you met, bonded, became great friends, and then decided that you wouldn't work together for 30 years.
Well, we didn't decide it.
Okay, so...
We met in Birmingham, that's not the Alabama one, that's the Midlands of the UK. And then realised we both really liked electronic music, we had a lot of things in common in terms of taste, and then Harvey moved to Manhattan and stayed there for 37 years. So about 30 years later, we sort of stayed in touch. We just basically were sitting around one day and said, look, come on, we've got to make a record. Well, it's crazy that we haven't done this really. I had a long-standing relationship with 6 Degrees Records, who are in San Francisco, a fantastic sort of boutique label who specialise in all sorts of esoteric music and world music, if you want to use that term. And I felt that they were the right people to put something out like this. And then we had a little manifesto chat,
and then we got going.
Yeah, the manifesto being no acoustic instruments, entirely synthesizers, and no drums.
And no vocals.
And no singing, yeah.
So you're going to make an album. All right, we'll use this latest album as an example. So on your latest album, pick one of the tracks and explain how it came about, whether it was somebody said this, somebody did that.
Part of the original manifesto is that we work together. You know, we're not going to send files over the internet and fiddle around with them and send them back. We have to be in the same room.
Pick a track from the album,
okay,
and just briefly talk us through the process of that particular one. Not that that's necessarily how they all worked,
right?
But if you just say, think of one title and just say, this is what happened.
Okay, let's talk about W Signal Chain.
W Signal Chain is a good one. That was one where
you had the whole.
I prepared a loop in C sharp minor that was generative. It was constantly changing. So that was kind of a sand bed, but it was generative in that the same thing never happened twice, although all of our music is based pretty much on repetition. So we would then have a key and a kind of non-tempo and a vibe.
It has to be something that you want to keep listening to, something that is interesting enough to keep listening to.
Yeah.
And then it might just be a question of saying, well, I think this needs a bit of random noise in here, and then we might switch on something like the EMS VCS3, which is it doesn't even have a keyboard attached to it, but it's a synthesizer, an old one from the late 60s, and it has a beautiful spring reverb, and you can just start to make abstract sounds, and then those kind of become part of the picture.
And we kind of support each other as we walk through the park.
And then it might be the next idea, and it's very organic, and at some point it's finished.
So there isn't, with that, bearing that in mind, what you said there, so you don't generally approach a track with an idea of how it's going to sound. You kind of go in with a beginning, and it's kind of finished.
Occasionally there is a bit of a chord.
There'll be a chord sequence.
I mean, the different one is that track, W Super Chain, is quite abstract, and it didn't really have a grid, not at the beginning anyway. I kind of forced it.